This is Pop Culture on Blast. Hi, this is Josh.
This is Justin.
And I'm Tim. I picked this up on one of the websites of comicbook.com, and it is pretty much the showrunners for Game of Thrones are being handed a Star Wars movie, and they are wanting to. And the rumor is they're going to base that Star Wars movie on the Knights of the Old Republic, which, as Justin has mentioned, is two separate sagas that, well, you know, there is the Knights of the Old Republic, the game franchise, and then what was the other one, Justin?
The one I mentioned?
Yes.
That one wasn't so much that it was Knights of the Old Republic as much as it was a story from way back in the past.
Well, yes, but that's classified as in the Knights of the Old Republic, the timeline itself. Yes, it's canon within that timeline. I believe it was the Jedi, the Tales of the Jedi.
Tales of the Jedi, yeah.
Yeah, I'm personally very excited because I played the game franchise, and that was one of the best game franchises I've ever played myself. Because that's one of the reasons why I got an Xbox. Was exclusively for the Knights of the Old Republic.
And the Knights of the Old Republic was based off of the books.
It's based off the
books. Which is not continuity anymore.
It's no longer canon. It's the legends.
Canon,
but some of it is. They have mentioned Darth Revan as canon in one of the cartoons. So technically that is canon. And they haven't really gotten to a lot of the stories of that yet. Because everything was just, when Disney took over, we shelved 99% of all the books. And we just kept this 1%.
Well, what do you think? Is this a good idea?
I personally think it's a great idea because, truthfully, it's 1,000 years before the Skywalker saga. So it's literally before, it predates Yoda. It's a time frame we've never seen before. If the showrunners can do it the way they did with Game of Thrones in that style, that'll bring mass crowd appeal to the movie, I think.
I agree. I do. But the fact that they're saying, "Oh, it's going to be like Game of Thrones for Star Wars," and
is anyone really saying that though?
Well, that's kind of what the article says.
It kind of is. They kind of think that they're expecting these people to bring that style to Star Wars.
And it's another thing of like, oh, let's ape what's popular. Let's follow the bandwagon. Let's jump on the bandwagon and do it like they did. I don't want them to have to do that. I want them to.
I don't think they're going to do that.
Well, I think no. That's what they're selling in this article here.
Well, of course, the article is going to talk like that. That's what we're going to get.
Well, that seems to be what these Disney executives have in mind. This is what's popular right now, so we're going to jump on that trend.
Okay. Well, let me ask you then. What do you think that means to be like Game of Thrones? Because in
the style of a la Game of Thrones.
What does that mean to you, though?
I think it means a cavalcade of characters.
Okay.
Cadre.
Yeah. Mind you, this is a movie, not a show. So
it's going to be a series of movies. Is what it's going to be.
A trilogy.
But it's going to be. I think it said Lord of the Rings meets Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
I think that's what it said.
Yeah, I saw that.
So I think it's going to be long story arcs. I think it's going to be an assortment of characters, interwoven characters and story arcs over a long series of films. And going back into the past, that is something that I like because it's going to be completely removed from everything that we know. So it's kind of like a clean slate in a way. But I don't want them to be too beholden to a particular style. That's why the fact that they're mentioning Game of Thrones so much in this article makes me a little trepidatious.
Well, part of it is because the showrunners themselves, their big title is Game of Thrones. That's their crown jewel. That's what they've done. They've had this successful Emmy-winning franchise that is expanding in its own right. And Disney might just be, hey, we tried something original. You guys all hated it. So maybe we can try something you might actually like. A good portion of people just said they hated it because they did it a different way. It was a new story. It was a way people didn't like. They believed it was crap. A lot of people did. I am not one of them, of course.
What are we talking
Yeah,
about?
what are you saying?
Where the Star Wars movies, where they went with Episode 8, where they went with 7.
Oh, okay. I
where
thought we
they
were talking
went-
about Game of Thrones.
Where they
Oh,
went
yeah.
with Solo. No, because Disney has tried to make something unique and add to their own Star
Unique
Wars.
New York.
They were trying to add to their own Star Wars universe, trying to make it their own, and a good portion of fans didn't like it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're like, okay, let's try this style. You like Game of Thrones? You like Lord of the Rings? You like it enough to where Amazon's making its own Lord of the Rings series. Why don't we try this?
But it's just...
It depends on what the story is. That's the thing.
I don't want them to have to feel like they have
I think
to...
you're getting caught up on the idea that it's like literally going to be like Game
I didn't
of
say
Thrones in space.
I didn't say literally.
I know you didn't say literally.
What I mean is that, like, we just had It. Remember the It movie
Yes.
that came out? Like, it was... Stranger Things got big, and so everything 80s got big with it.
Well-
And so they're gonna, like, let's do it like that.
But
But
that-
Stranger Things was ripping off It to begin with.
But that made sense because they had to shift the timeline because they couldn't have it be when they were kids in this time frame because it's it's later. You can't be the kids in the 50s and now they're adults in the
Yes,
80s.
that's a given. But you see what I'm getting at.
Yes, I do.
Right. And that they're copying a style.
I am kind of worried that they copy the same thing too because I don't want to see, like Justin said, I don't want to see Game of Thrones in space.
Well, I get it. I get the idea that people would be worried that it would be Game of Thrones in space, but I mean, Hollywood is replete with examples of where a director, a writer, an actor, what have you, was known for a certain genre or a certain show, and then was given this other opportunity. Hell, man, we just our last episode or two ago, we talked about the new Twilight Zone, and Jordan Peele was known for comedy. And then he turns around and makes this, apparently great horror movie.
Really great.
And it's, I think we're all caught up on what Game of Thrones is because it was so unique and good and special that we all just assumed, well, it's just going to be that in space. But I think these guys were brought on because they have a proven track record of doing a long form story, which the new movies feel like they're making it up as they go, and they don't want that. They want people that know how to spread that out and do it correctly. They know how to tell a story that is both epic yet emotional and personal, and all. They have the skill, they have the experience to do it, and I think that's why they were tapped to do it. I don't think we're going to get Jon Snow in space, for God's sake. I just think it's literally the skill set that they bring to it. I mean, who the hell would have thought that one of the directors of Airplane would make Ghost, right? They're filmmakers. I mean, we as film buffs know that you can never pigeonhole. They're creative people. They could have very easily made a space show on TV, and it could have been that. But when J.J. Abrams was brought into Star Wars, they brought him in because he had just done Star Trek and revitalized this old property. But they didn't think, no one thought for real that we were going to get Star Trek in a Star Wars skin. We knew he would adapt to that format or type of storytelling, I have great hope for it. Whether or not they write it, I don't know. If they'll just produce it, I really don't know how that's going to play out. But as, at the very least, executive producers of the show, they have developed an ability, clearly, to do that. And I hope that they are able to translate over that knowledge base to a series of 3 movies. I mean, my hopes are high. I'm not expecting The Godfather in space, I mean, they're going to tell a Star Wars story just with some of those strengths. That's what I think.
No, I agree with you. Yeah, you can't pigeonhole creative people like that. Look how well the Cobra Kai turned out. Like, people kind of were gonna pigeonhole that and say that was a piece of garbage. I remember what you thought of the trailer. You're like, it looks like crap.
Well, that you gotta admit, that first trailer was
I thought it looked great.
with Daniel walking up to him, like, we're not finished yet, and you're
This
like, Christ, no.
This isn't done.
It was that one shot that threw everyone off, and they're like, no, this is garbage.
But I just brought it up as the Game of Thrones thing. I mean, I brought that up because it's a concern. Just like Jordan Peele with the Twilight Zone and his previous work was a concern. I'm not saying it's going to turn out that way. It's just a concern. Actually, I think that there's a lot of potential in this. I think a lot. I'm actually kind of excited about it. I think the idea of a clean slate, going back to the past, a new style,
That's
different
funny you
storytellers.
say clean slate, though, because
it's so far removed.
Well,
That's what I mean
get
by
that,
clean
but
slate.
like I was telling Tim earlier today, and it's too early. They haven't said yet. Is it that they are actually doing the Knights of the Old Republic story, like the game story, the book story, or is it simply going to be in that general time frame and they're going to tell their own story? I can't see Disney like redoing a story that was already done that all the fans know, because half of the fun of Star Wars is what's going to happen next? They're not going to do an existing story, I don't think. I think they might mine a character or two to pull out, but I think the story will be absolutely fresh, and of their own making.
Well, one of the stories they haven't touched, truthfully, is where the Sith come from.
Sure.
Because within the Star Wars universe, the Sith is not only a religion, it's a species. And they are in the outer regions of unknown space, because that's where some of the games end, is that your protagonist ends up going there for some reason. That's how the first one and the second one begins.
Let me ask you about that for a second. You said religion. I thought with this new trilogy, they were distancing themselves from it being a religion.
Well, yes,
and more
but-
going back to it just being this mystical energy that you don't really understand.
But in the
You don't
beginning, 1,000 years before all this stuff that's happening now, the Sith was a religion. They were a conquering species who brought anyone they conquered to their heel.
How is that canon now?
It's technically not.
Technically it is, because they said that the Revan story exists, so therefore
Which story is this?
Darth Revan, the Knights of the Old Republic video games.
Well, the real question, Tim, is it still canon how Wookiees were made?
Dude, I was
I
getting
was
there.
like, Justin's gonna try to be funny.
I was getting there.
I could
Why
feel it
are you
coming.
rushing me? I was working towards that angle.
Oh, I'm sorry, I blew your wad.
Why do you think I said I was excited about this one? Within the canon of Knights of the Old Republic, you find out that there was a species that ruled the galaxy 10,000 years before all this stuff happened that ended up dying off. They created Kashyyyk as pretty much a farm planet, because they were able to terraform worlds. So they created Kashyyyk as a farm planet. Then they took a species off of that planet. They advanced them biologically. They rushed their evolution, ended up creating Wookiees, because on the actual on the forest floor, they're very large predators and stuff. So the Wookiees were actually designed to be gardeners for the forest planet.
Wookiees were genetically designed and built to be gardeners.
Yes. And that is within canon, within the Knights of the Republic video games.
Tim says it with such a straight face. I
don't know. Try and question him on this.
I'm like, he's very serious. This is not a joke.
Everyone gives me that
Okay.
reaction.
So what you're telling me is that 8-foot creatures were built to be gardeners, generally where work was done on the ground. Now, I know your response, but I'm just saying this so Josh can have the benefit.
Because they are fighting creatures the size of the arachnids from Starship Troopers.
Now, if you genetically design a creature to be extremely proficient at gardening, one would assume that they're just like the Vorta or the Jem'Hadar. They're bred for this purpose. Like, put a Vorta as a gardener, they're not going to be any good at it. Put a Jem'Hadar as a diplomat, they're going to be horrible at it. How does a creature genetically designed to be a gardener make such an awesome, epic co-pilot? Like flying technology and all that stuff.
You're trying to say that gardeners aren't smart?
That's not what I'm saying.
Seriously, they can't fly planes? Haven't you heard of crop dusters?
I'm not talking about humans who adopted a skill. This is a species that per your thing.
Yes, however, the Jem'Hadar
Jem'Hadar.
and I can never remember their names.
Vorta.
Vorta.
What is the one thing they have that the Wookiees don't? they are still being controlled by their master race. Within the universe, they are dead. That species died off. They're the ones who turned Tatooine to a desert planet. They bombed it because the Sand People tried to fight them off. So they literally
Why are you
nuked
telling
the
me
planet.
this like you think I don't know?
Because I've told you this before.
I'm joking. I have no idea.
Yes, because within there, that's why the Sand People are that way, because they remember when it used to be a normal planet. Because, come on, it's just a planet full of sand. That doesn't make any sense.
Well, look at the water planet in episode 2.
There was no definitive proof it was
That
a water
was
planet.
an all-water planet. You're
Yes.
right. Fair
Exactly.
enough. Okay.
Like I said at the end of Force Awakens, like, is it an all-island planet that they go to just because he's on an island? It's like, there could
Seriously.
be more land masses out there that we
All
can't
right,
see.
all right.
Seriously,
enough,
but
fair enough.
within
Jeez.
the old canon, I'm not sure exactly what is 100% canon anymore, what's not, is that Kashyyyk was a farm planet, and Tatooine was a normal planet
What were
until
they
they
farming?
bombarded.
Tree houses? I mean,
No, they
Really?
food. They had to feed a
a
galaxy,
joke.
but that's why. But see, that's why they live in
they're
tree
treehouse
houses.
builders. That's what they were.
So
That's
so
why they live in tree
in
houses.
Return of
because
the
bottom.
Jedi, when they go to the forest planet or moon, sorry.
Forest moon.
That's a
Oh.
moon, not a planet. There's a
hey,
difference.
that was sacrilege.
And technically, we only went to one part. We don't know if the whole thing was forest.
no, they call it the forest
moon of Endor.
That implies that
Yeah.
the whole thing's a forest.
and the nearby forest moon of Endor.
Endor. But
Says the fish.
so genetically speaking, like a Wookiee, any Wookiee would walk onto that planet and they would just be predisposed to
No,
want to pick
again,
things.
And build tree houses.
Because eventually,
Well, to be fair, when Chewie was in the fight, what did he do? Oh,
see,
he started going back to his
Thank
roots.
you. But no,
Chewie goes back to
there
his
was.
roots. Okay.
They don't have the people who built them anymore to tell them what to do, so they were able to expand beyond their original programming.
Did you realize what a great pun that was? Roots. Gardner goes back to his roots.
Are you referring to the Geordie miniseries?
No, they
No.
were gardeners. You said Chewie goes back to his roots.
Oh,
Because he's a gardener.
yes.
I mean, normally you go after me because they're so tall.
Yeah,
That's
and
what most people
Why would you
arguments
build
are.
an 8-foot tall creature to
yeah,
be
don't
on
you
the
think
ground?
the Ewoks
guarding?
would be better at
That's
that?
what I said.
But the Ewoks can't fight off the giant bugs that are
They
on the
fought
forest
off
floor.
the Empire with sticks,
Yes, but those are sticks
and they crushed the heads of giant metal monsters.
with massive trees.
Hell yeah, they're geniuses.
Well, yes, they also eat everyone they come across.
Ewoks?
We don't discuss that, do we?
They're savages.
They are. They literally were going to cook our heroes until the Golden God showed up.
Yeah, that's
We're-
true. They were about to sacrifice them, yeah.
Yes, they're.
But that doesn't mean they're about to eat everything. I mean,
They may have just
No,
ate that
I've got a
fingers.
funny feeling that they're good with the Earth. They use all the human or the Wookiee.
I think we've gotten a little off track here.
You think?
So, Knights of the Old Republic.
right.
What? A
Well-
good 1,000 years?
It's 1,000 years depending on where you go. I just don't know any Tales of the Jedi.
Tales of the Jedi.
What was that about?
It follows, in not exclusively, but in large part, two main characters, Ulic Qel-Droma and Nomi Sunrider, who I would say are archetypes because Nomi was very much like Rey. She was natural. Her husband was killed, who was going to train with this famous Jedi Master. He got killed, and she went to go and like deliver his lightsaber or something, and the Master there realized she was strong in the Force, but he kept challenging her to be better and do this and that. And they had a daughter who I believe later became also quite powerful herself. But Ulic was kind of like Luke. He was hungry. He wanted to get out. He wanted to do things. He was already training when the story started. And that particular story heavily involved the Sith. And Ulic kind of gets involved in that. He goes on a mission to infiltrate it, but as a result gets tempted and kind of becomes a bad guy. He's kind of like, you don't really know, but I found it to be a very engrossing story, and it was in 3 parts. It was like I was telling you earlier, it's like this should have been a movie. This is great. However, as much as I would love to see that, the story exists. You can go buy the comic, and I don't think Disney's going to do a story that people can go and look up and go, oh yeah, that guy's going to die or that girl's going to live. It had a brother and sister who were looking into the Sith, and they were super evil and twisted. There was a lot of sexuality to it, but not over the top. It was just right. Great action, great characters, good stuff. I really got to say it. It was so Star Wars without being anything connected to the Skywalkers or anything like that. Didn't have any character remotely that we've known before, but I'll be damned if it didn't stand on its own. I thought it was great. Great. They even made audio dramas for it. They were spectacular.
I have to say the one thing that I really did like about the Knights of the Old Republic was they brought in the concept of the Grey Jedi. Something that a lot of people were hoping for Episode 8.
Uh-huh.
And that is the whole, you don't have to be Sith, you don't have to be a Jedi. There's a middle ground.
Those are the great ones?
The Grey.
Oh, Gray.
Gray. I was like,
I thought you said
I'm sorry, Grey Jedi.
okay, I was like, great. Then they're in the middle.
The Grey Jedi.
Yes,
the whole
yes.
concept. I never even figured
what's
that would
above
be a
that? Super
concept.
great?
Yes, they're super great Jedis too. But they
Is
brought
even
that in.
calling them Gray Jedi appropriate? Wouldn't they just be Gray Force users?
No, the label is the label has become Grey Jedi for them until they create something else to call themselves, or Disney to call them. It is Grey Jedi as far as right now.
Don't you think they're taking that whole light dark thing too literally when they start coming up with terms like that?
Yes, but truthfully, when the Sith and the Jedi were brought out, it's literally light dark, red, blue.
Yeah,
it was
you
good
didn't put
versus
too much
evil.
of a point on it. You just recognized that Vader was red, Obi-Wan was blue, or was it green back then?
He was blue.
No, it was blue. Sorry, it was Jedi when it became green. No, okay, red, bad, green, good. It wasn't acknowledged. It wasn't made a point of. But now everyone's making a point out of it. Oh, bad guys gotta have red lightsabers.
I agree that it's become very visually.
Like, why couldn't Kylo Ren have a different color? Why did you have to have red?
Well,
I
no,
agree.
that bled over into other aspects of televisions and movies as well.
But can't
Where-
bad guys like different colors?
I mean,
Bad
no.
guys like blue?
Honestly, if you look at... Well, no, they've actually explained what happens
I know, they have.
in
they
the
have?
Ahsoka book.
Ahsoka?
Ahsoka Tano.
Ahsoka Tano.
Everybody knows who she is.
Oh, excuse me.
His, Anakin's, Padawan, who became a Grey Jedi.
In the Clone Wars.
Oh, okay.
What happens is the color is bleeded out by the evil that Sith
The
does.
Sith power within them, like, basically
Yeah,
turns them
it
red.
turns the crystal red. So they actually gave a scientific explanation for why it happens. Because they're connected to their crystals. Because the crystal has to choose you.
Like a Harry Potter wand?
It's pretty much, yeah, actually. Have you not seen the Clone Wars where they went to the planet to find their crystals?
I've
'Cause
only seen half of
the
it.
crystal itself chooses you and you choose the crystal. So you won't even have a working crystal until it finds you.
I guess that's okay.
I don't mind that.
Well,
At least they explain it.
They explain
Yeah.
it, which...
But it seems unnecessary to explain, don't you think?
I would say in the context of the original trilogy, yes,
Yes,
it's unnecessary.
yes.
But when you start showing other Sith and they all have red,
And then you expand the universe even more, and you bring in the gray, and...
I think it takes away from the Jedi. I kind of like the fact that, like in that cutscene from Return of the Jedi, where
Luke's building it.
where Luke is building it in the cave.
Well, that doesn't undo that.
What?
He
Well-
still had to find his crystal.
Well, let me finish. Like before the Clone Wars was turned into a TV show, when you see him sitting there, just making it, it just looks like a tool. It's a tool. Like the Jedi is inside. He brings
Well-
he brings the magic. He brings the energy to the saber.
Well-
the saber is just a tool. Anybody can pick it up and try to use it, but unless you have the Force, then it doesn't mean anything.
The saber itself is the tool. It's the crystal.
Well, the crystal
that
too. I
makes
mean,
it work.
it's just an energy source. It's not actually magic. He brings the magic to it,
Yes.
right? Like
Okay. and I'm sure this is not undone by the books and the shows and all that, but I was always of the belief, maybe I freaking heard it from or read it in a Star Wars book, so maybe that's why I got it in my head, but that the building of the lightsaber, I always believed that to be kind of like a rite of passage. In fact, even in Tales of the Jedi, their story literally begins with Ulick and his brother building their lightsabers, because it's like they said, it's part of the ritual of becoming a Jedi. And like Josh is saying, seeing Luke build a new one, yes, it was a tool, but it was also symbolic. And now that's not to say that somewhere in some planet Luke didn't go and a crystal called to him or whatever, but it does in the movies anyway. I think the general perception is just that they go out, they build these things to as a ritualistic thing to become a Force user.
Yeah, that's actually what they throw in the Clone Wars. There's a whole episode devoted to little Padawans finding their crystals and building their lightsabers, and you meet what I've seen as the first Wookiee Jedi, and according to even them, they're rare, but they do occur.
A Wookiee Jedi would fuck you up.
He found part of his lightsaber. Actually, the case itself was made of a metallic wood that's grown on this certain planet.
So they probably grew it themselves.
Well, no, they didn't, because first of all, they grew food, not metallic trees. Get it right. No, he made his lightsaber himself, but the whole point of the crystal, even with Rogue One, it showed how powerful the crystals are in the wrong hands.
Yeah.
But they couldn't use non-Force users to find them because they can't.
I actually liked that in Rogue One. What did they call them? Kyber crystals. That they used that as the source for the laser. It's like, okay, colors, they're powerful. I can get behind that. Those are very powerful crystals, and
yes.
they're rare and they're unique. They're special. That makes what Jedis hold very special. I'm cool with that. I like that.
Yeah, they brought that in too, but it's the connection that binds them. That it's the Force connects everything. This crystal, it's not sentient, really. It still feeds off of what you're doing.
Which would explain why Rey got Force visions of Luke with the lightsaber and all that stuff.
Because the crystal was connected to Luke.
And his father.
Yep.
Okay. Well, Tim, any final thoughts on Knights of the Old Republic and expectations or fears?
Well, I don't have any real fears yet because there's not a lot of news on it.
Fair enough.
I can't wait to see this because this was one of my favorite stories. Even if it's not anything that's been out before, I would like the fact that, like Josh was saying, it's a full clean slate. We take it back. There's nothing pre-done because they don't really go into the history of this part at all. They barely touch on it in anything. So there's so many stories they can tell, and they can make them go any direction because there's enough time to go by to where it won't even matter.
Well, I do have one quick question then for you to wrap that up. Given that it's the Game of Thrones creator, Emilia Clarke has already been in a Star Wars movie. One actor from that show, who's it going to be? Who would you choose from anyone in Game of Thrones to be moved over to the Star Wars universe?
Well, I can't because she already is.
Well, you can't use her. Pick someone else.
But
someone else.
Maisie Williams then might make a good little Force user.
Okay, fair
potential
enough.
For it.
Okay, fair enough. Josh, would you like to?
Well, which one did you? I don't know the actor's name.
Arya Stark.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna pick.
Arya.
Yeah.
The little one.
Maisie Williams. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want Sophie Turner?
No, I would like someone who can act.
Wow.
She's not like
says the best actor in the world.
Have you seen the trailer? I mean, she looks great, but
trailer for what? Oh, the new
Dark Phoenix.
Oh, I didn't know she was in this.
I would say she's growing as an actress very
either
well.
her or Snow.
Jon Snow would be like so freaking obvious, like, and that's all anyone.
Well, what's wrong with obvious? Sometimes obvious is good.
Hey, I'm not. I like that guy, the guy that plays Jon Snow. That'd be awesome.
Kit Harington.
Let's see. Who are some of the main characters other than the Starks? Give me. Oh well, I know. They simply,
Sean Bean?
No, Sean Bean should be in everything and
He'll
die.
die in the first scene. He'll die in the first scene of the movie.
He'll die at the end of the first movie. God damn it! I never survived. No, they need to use what's his name? The little person.
Peter Dinklage?
Peter Dinklage. He's badass. Put a lightsaber in his hand. Let me see him kicking ass. He doesn't have to be a Jedi. He could be anything. I would like to see him because he is a really good actor, and I would see past Game of Thrones, and I would see him.
I agree with that one. That one actually is good too.
Like in X-Men, not X-Men. Did I say X-Men?
In X-Men,
in the Marvel stuff, I don't see Game of Thrones. I see him. I did mean X-Men.
In X-Men, it's the same thing. Yes, I forgot
see that character. Not he was in Days of Future Past.
He created the Sentinels.
So yeah, I say bring him in just because I think he's awesome.
He is.
Everyone
awesome.
thinks he's awesome. So all right, I'm done. I'm good.
All right. Well, if you like to subscribe to us, please hit that subscribe button in iTunes. Leave us a comment. Give us a rating. You can email us directly at pconblast@gmail.com. You can go to our website at popcultureonblast.libsyn.com. You can tweet at us at popcultureonblast. We're also on Spotify as well. Until next time, I'm Josh.
I'm Justin.
And I'm Tim.